Good morning, everybody. I'm Victoria Hawkins from Natural England in the Wealden Heaths, part of the West Surrey, part of the Surrey Hills National Landscape in the southwest of Surrey, and how we're working towards a protected site strategy. Protected site strategy came out of the Environment Act of 2021, along with many other mechanisms to help us deliver nature recovery. And it gives Natural England a mandate to prepare and publish plans that will help with conservation and management of our protected sites. But it also gives Natural England a mandate to work on the impacts of other plans and activities within the landscape that may have an impact on protected sites. And really, it's a shift away from that consent by consent mitigation that we work on protected sites to a more holistic landscape and more strategic approach to managing our protected sites. I don't know why I'm clicking because you can't see my slides. This is a beautiful picture of a heathland. Just imagine yourself there. It's a globally rare habitat, heathland, and this is why we make such a big fuss about it. We have a really significant international proportion of heathland in England, and Surrey has a really nationally important part of that. So we need to really make sure that what we're doing protects this really, really rare habitat. And it's also a cultural landscape. So it's been shaped by hundreds and hundreds of years of low intensity human action to create a nice open landscape where people they've grazed their animals to create an open mosaic, they've taken fuel for firewood and bracken for bedding and all sorts of amazing things. But it's also the last sort of wilderness for people to go and explore and feel like even in a really built up southeast region, they have got this open space on their doorstep, they can connect to nature and they can really get the benefits of it. And heathland also gives us wider benefits in the community. It gives us ecosystem services, it can help us with our climate regulation, it can help us with our carbon sequestration, and it can help us with our natural flood management. But it's facing enormous pressures. It's facing pressures from recreation. It's a hugely fragmented landscape, which is not helping our species thrive. And it really does need us to work on it to reduce these pressures holistically and strategically instead of each site doing it individually. Here's my map of the heathland arcs and where all these beautiful things fit into it. And Lawton said it best, we need bigger, we need better, we need more, and we need more joined up. And that's to do with not only connecting our sites, but connecting the people working on those sites and connecting the communities that live around those sites. And we're in a really strategic place in the middle where we've got the Thames Basin heathland arc to the north of us, and we've got the Hampshire and West Sussex heathlands to the south of us. And then that obviously ultimately goes down to the New Forest and to the Purbex. So for us, the Wealden Heaths area is a really strategic opportunity to start thinking even bigger than just that landscape, but into actually the whole of the region. And ultimately, our aim is to create one connected and resilient landscape. I'm still clicking my slides on out of habit. Here is a picture of some project work we've done. If you can imagine, there's an Exmoor pony on there. There's a picture of Surrey Wildlife Trust helping us with some of our projects. But yeah, it started with us getting together in a room, people that work and own heathlands in this part of Surrey and saying, hey, let's work together on this, let's collaborate, let's do more. And at the same time, DEFRA announced they would fund 12 nature recovery projects in England. So the partnership came together and put in a bid for one of those projects. And we're very fortunate to receive funding. And that funding was £250,000 over 2.5 years. And it enabled somebody, the crucial thing about this funding is it funded a project officer. So when you get together a partnership of very keen, very enthusiastic and very forward-thinking partners, what you need is somebody to help drive those ambitions forward and make some of that a reality. And that's what sort of set this apart a little bit from other projects that had gone before. And this has led to some really, really juicy on-the-ground projects as well. So we were able to fund the Surrey Wildlife Trust, for example, to deliver a really good local landowner engagement project. And this was really about building that appetite for what could people do to help buffer the protected sites, help increase our connectivity and deal with some of our fragmentation issues. And it wasn't just focusing on heathland, it was also focusing on supporting habitat types like hedgerows and woodlands and high value scrub. And where could we start doing these connections? And actually with Philippa as well, we worked on a project locally that would help connect a wider piece of heathland in the distance. And this really showed what the art of the possible was and what we could do when you come together and work as a collective partnership. And the biggest, I'm still clicking, the biggest aim of the National Nature Reserve was, the biggest aim of the Heathland Connections Nature Recovery Project was for us to cement our partnership working for the long term instead of having just a short-term project that ended. What was our legacy going to be? And so we decided as a partnership that we would pursue a National Nature Reserve and a partnership National Nature Reserve at that. And that was where Wealden Heaths Super National Nature Reserve was born. And technically we're not allowed to call it super because there's no such thing, but we always agreed that ours is super, so we're going to keep calling it super. And that gave us national recognition that the work we've done up until now and the rarity and importance of our heathland and habitat types was recognised nationally and in our wider natural England landscape. But it also recognised the strength of partnership, that in such a short space of time, we could come together and create something that would be long-lasting and in perpetuity, and it would last forever. And it's still nascent, so we're still working out who we are as a partnership and where we're going to go. But the fact is we are here and we're here forever. And, you know, imagine, we talk a lot about partnership working, and it's great. We come together, we talk, we workshop, we have ambitions. But imagine what true collaboration looks like. And that is what the NNR gives us. It gives us that access to share resources, to share equipment, to share aims and ambitions, and to have that shared vision for a landscape. And in 5 years' time, if I get invited back, I'll tell you all the lovely progress we're going to make in the future. Here is a map of the NNR. It is, and I will show you maps later if the thing works. So it ended up being just over 2,700 hectares of lowland heathland and other supporting types of habitat. The majority of it sits within the Surrey Hills National Landscape, but because our ambitions are grander than just Surrey, we've nicked a bit of Hampshire and we've nicked in a bit of West Sussex too, just as we're starting our even bigger ambitions. It is the largest partnership NNR in England, which is a really, really good thing and also quite a complex thing. And what was really exciting is that 35% of the sites we put into the NNR had no previous formal protections or designations for nature protection. So we've safeguarded that 35% forever. The MOD also play a really key role in this partnership, but because their primary purpose is not nature conservation, we could only have them as an affiliated partner. So we've recognised the importance of their sites for helping us and for supporting our species and our general connectivity. And they're a very valuable part of our partnership too. So this has given us our platform to deliver. And it's not all been plain sailing, so this is my lessons learned slide. There's a couple of icons, you don't really need to miss much out of those. Partnership working is a very complicated beast to get right. You have a lot of very enthusiastic, forward-thinking partners. You have some that are quite stuck in their ways and are a bit more cautious with their approach. So it takes time to build a partnership. And yes, we're a great partnership, but we're not quite there yet. So we've still got work to do there. I've also definitely learned that we have an over-reliance on short-term funded projects. And actually, if you want to truly have a mature project that is delivering our really lofty ambitions, you need that long-term commitment and you need that long-term sustainable funding, which is why we're now working towards a protected site strategy with partners to look at how we can have a 30-year blended finance plan so that we don't fall victim to this boom and bust nature of project working. So looking ahead, and it's time here to think differently, to try a new approach, to take risks and to work slightly differently. And the protected site strategy gives us a mandate to do just that. It gives us the opportunity to move away from traditional individual site pressures and working on just the symptoms to looking at the more strategic, holistic approach in the landscape, where we can really look at the root causes of what is making our nature and our biodiversity decline so significantly. Even though each site is managed to the best of our abilities, we're still seeing those declines. So what's causing that in a broader landscape scale? Where can we look outside of just our site boundaries to see where those impacts are coming from? And that's really what the potential protected site strategy is going to be about. And we've agreed, and this is no surprise, so I've talked about it all today, that our main pressures that we need to work on to help reverse the the biodiversity declines we're seeing on our heathland habitats. We need to work on things like recreation. So we need to manage people and how they're using our landscapes and how they understand and interact with our landscapes. But we also need to be positive with enabling that access and enabling that connection to nature, because it's so important. We need to really work on our fragmentation. We need to really build in our resilience in the landscape so that when we have devastating wildfires, for example, we've got reservoirs where species can go to. We also need to be adaptive with our management, because we're not static in time. We're trying to keep heathland static in time, but actually what we've got to do is be more adaptive with our management and more forward-thinking with our management. So they may change slightly in the future, but we need to prepare for that evolution. We need to prepare for climate envelopes moving and species migrations. And we need sustainable long-term commitment and funding in order to make this a reality, because we're not going to be able to do it in 2 years, we're not going to be able to do it in 10 years, but we are going to be able to do it in 30, 40, 50 years, and we're going to be able to make some really good strides towards doing that now. Thank you very much.